Okay everybody, I just want to show you, I hooked up our outdoor wood boiler. It's taken me some time, but I just want to show you how I did it. I'll try and make this short. So we had our supply line coming in here, this 1-inch poly. You got to understand, we have a geothermal system in the house, which does, there's a coil in the geo which actually does forced air if you want, so that's how we're keeping the heat up. But if we want to use hydronic, which we have in-floor heating, you have a buffer tank, right? So the geo basically from the ground loop would come in here, go into the furnace, heat up the water, right, and then push it back through. And then this is basically just like a holding tank almost, right? And if you look here, here's all the we've got different levels, etc. And then we are in the basement here. I mean, here's our manifold, if that makes any sense. So I'm just basically experimenting here. I'm trying to see how I can hook up the wood boiler and basically save some electricity here by burning wood, because we have an abundance of it through our business. So I figure we might as well use it for some heat. So what we've done here is brought this supply loop, which is the hot water in from the outdoor boiler. It comes in here to the side arm. You see it comes down, right? Then back out at the bottom, right? And what I've done is maybe at some point, if I have to do a repair or something, you know, I valved everything here, right? So I can change, you know, if I have to take that side arm off, I don't have to like drain the system, etc. Basically that return line, or sorry, the supply line, and then comes out of the side arm, and then it goes into this fancy heat exchanger that I've mounted in here. Now I gotta admit, things are tight quarters here, and you might see a little bit of water on the ground, because you know I did everything here with stainless for the most part on one side, and you know, I've been fighting with this thing for the last couple hours to try and get all the leaks to stop. For the most part, everything is there. So it is tightened and it doesn't leak. So if you see here, this valve comes in, right? This is your hot in and cold out, basically. Again, I valved this, so if I want to basically just use the hot water and not the geo, it comes back and it goes out this return line. I don't know if you see that very well there, right? And that goes back out to the stove. Here I've put in a water supply line, so I can fill the tank up anytime sometimes you might lose a little bit of water, just from evaporation, etc. But this is going to do my initial fill. I haven't filled up the boiler yet. Okay, so if we go back to this is our basically we'll call it our holding tank or buffer tank for the hydronic system. So what I've done here is I've added this Ranco temperature gauge, aquastat, I guess. What I did is I run the thing in and it sits against the tank. And if you see above here, this is my geothermal one. So what I've done here is I've added a secondary, and what I did is I added a pump here. So I've added this Grundfos pump. Same thing. And what I did is, if you look at this heat exchanger, because I don't want the water from inside to be touching the water from the boiler, that's what that heat exchanger is all about. That heat exchanger goes up to 200,000 BTU. This house load is about 100,000, so it should easily do this house. It's about a 3,800 square foot house. Secondary, so what I've done is I took out both of the elements because they weren't being used anyway in this geo system, because it's just basically a tank. This is my cold coming into the heat exchanger, then hot going in. Now, you know, as with the side arm, it just uses convection. You know, cold as hot. You know, you probably learned this in chemistry or physics, right? As the cold drops, the hot goes up, right? I wasn't confident that I could get enough out of it, so that's why I put this pump in here to exchange it for me when the hydronic system comes on. I looked online and I couldn't find much about this, so I thought I'd just post this because it is kind of interesting. It took me a long time, and I'm not a plumber by any means, but I got some mechanical aptitude. So I like this kind of thing. So, you know, if I don't use it, great. If it doesn't work out, well, I'm out a couple $1,000 in plumbing parts and a stove. But regardless, I think we'll use it, especially in the cold times. So what I've done though, I've offset these two temperatures. So what I've done here, I've changed the aquastat for the hot water tank, right? for the boiler, sorry, I set it at 130. So what will happen is, because this water's coming in, right, coming down that supply line at 180 degrees, right, and for the most part, I don't want to run 180 degrees in my infloor. You know, I'm going to max out, I'm going to try and, that's why I set it at 130 here. So what I'm going to do is 130, I put a differential of 20, so it will come back on, and it's on the high mode, right? Right now, the water temperature is 58 because I haven't got anything running, right? So I did a differential, so that means at 110 degrees, it'll kick back on, that pump will come back on, it'll start circulating, and we'll be using, the infloor in the throughout the house. Now you can't see this because I haven't got it on right now, but this thermostat or aquastat for the Geo, what I've done is this guy feeds the getting ahead of myself here. It is set to bring the water in, because when you bring the water in from the ground loop, it's at about 50 some degrees, I would say, 45 to 50 degrees, because it's buried in the ground about 6 to 8 feet, right? And it's in heavy clay here, so we get excellent conductivity through the pipe. So it brings it in at 50 some degrees, goes into the actual geothermal unit. This system's a Nordic made in New Brunswick. You can't really see it too well, sorry. You'll see these are the lines coming in, and then they come around to the system here. Now, with that system, we would bump up basically the 50 degree water, which is in a closed loop system, up to about 102 degrees on this guy. So and then the differential I think was down to 92 if I recall. So 92 degrees, and then it would come back on again. Now that I've added this system, this guy basically comes off and on before the temperature in this. So if things work out, my Geo should never really come on in the wintertime, that is. You know, in the summer, we'll definitely use it for cooling, and it does an excellent job in the cooling mode, because you are bringing that water in at, say, 55 degrees. So it doesn't have to work near as hard to give you 70 degree air flowing through the ductwork. So, with that being said, I don't think there's much more to say. I just did a test run. That pump's running right now. I don't see any more major leaks, maybe a few drops here and there. I'm going away for a week, and then I'm going to come back, and if the weather's still cold at the end of February, I'm going to light this guy up and see if it can save us some money. Okay, thanks for watching.